Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
We are live streaming on Sportsnet's YouTube channel. We're also on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, and wherever you are downloading our podcast, we're happy you're along for the ride for the next 2 hours. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Derek Brandeo, Jennifer Rolnick, Sammy McKee, all on board for the next little while.
Dustin Johnson, he's in full golf attire today, Kyper.
Straight from the course, boys. Little Tam O'Shanter action this morning.
You've got 2 rounds in already.
Yeah, I got the itch. Probably going to figure out a single again before the end of this week.
Was it
Wild.
like the Masters gave you the itch to go out and hit the ball today?
I love playing golf. And I got a taste on. I've played 3 times, only on not for 9 one hole, but one time. Sorry, but
you know when you really will enjoy it is when you get good, right?
That's a very good point. When
it's so much more enjoyable.
The pursuit of greatness. It's yeah, but boys, this morning teed off at 6:58 a.m.
And you get paired up with some random people.
My boy Kim and Jan. And out I went, and it was just perfect. Done in 3.5 hours.
Good dudes.
Splendid. One didn't speak English. The other guy was fine.
Supposed to be a great week here, so that'll dry out even more. So hopefully I may try to hit the ball this weekend.
I mean, I don't know if your big flute and club's going to be open yet, is it?
No, not.
They got a little more respect.
Yeah,
They got to get the interns out with the scissors on the green there for
get the
Kyper's
paint out.
Not quite yet.
I got to say, Kyper, I was alerted to who you may look like in a famous movie. Maybe a little Harrison Ford in Star Wars. A little bit of
with the vest.
With the vest?
Yes.
I'm getting vest comments already.
Well, no, I'm just saying it. Hey, what's Harrison Ford's character? Han Solo.
Yeah. How about our show between
You're
three
looking,
of us?
you're looking a little Han Solo-esque today. With
I don't
that
mind
vest.
that.
Handsome.
I mean, he's
really.
a handsome lad. You look great.
Big
dinner tonight.
I think the chicks digged him back then.
He did okay for himself over the years, I think.
Well, good.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Good, I'm okay. And we are closing in on May 4th. Be with you soon.
Good call, yeah.
That's true.
We're what?
Oh,
A couple
3
weeks away.
That might be game 2 for the Leafs, huh?
Which we can't wait for.
In Boston,
Listen,
or what's it going to be?
Good segue here towards May 4th is this is traditionally and historically been the time now where you're getting ready for the playoffs.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is it. Like, this is like enough already. The weather, the time shift, going home after dinner, sun's still up, and it's playoff hockey. But we know it's been bumped back. We still got 10 games to go.
I know.
I'm like, this is going to be a challenge now, not only for Sheldon Keefe, but I think any coach in the National Hockey League. How do you keep guys other than Austin Matthews, who's chasing history, really engaged now for the next 10 days? For some of these guys, it's hard. I can assure you.
Well, particularly in the Western Conference in the Eastern Conference where all 8 teams are in.
It's just really weird that the NBA playoffs are starting way before the NHL playoffs.
And now, excuse my ignorance, but how did we get so off the NBA schedule? Longer delay?
I think it's just a longer
I
delay.
think COVID shut us down longer than it did for them, because traditionally it's only been a week apart, 10
and
days.
usually the other way, like basketball starts a little later, finishes a little later.
Correct. Yeah.
So I will say there is a circadian rhythm's not the right word, but like a annual yearly rhythm to hockey, and it feels like we're thrown off right now that we're launching into game 80 or 74 rather than 1.
And I do believe that the next 10 games, or even going into the first round, it'll kind of screw up a rhythm here. Maybe it might bleed into some serious upsets. I don't know. It may bleed into some guys getting hurt a lot more, or a rash of injuries.
Let me tell you, I'm terrified of that.
I'm getting a weird vibe here for the next 10 games, because it is far enough where, we are talking about hockey players, and sometimes it's like children, and it's like, or simply a squirrel where? Squirrel. And it's going to be challenging for some of these guys to look interested in certain parts of the next 10 games.
Well, it's funny. Like, if you play in a warm weather market, maybe it's not such a big deal. But being in a Canadian city, when it looks like it does outside right now, I think it's, I don't know, 13 Celsius and sunny. Like, it's a beautiful day. It's really tough to not be like, well, you know, it's everyone's free from hockey except for those who have a chance to win the cup. So, yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting test here. The Leafs, you're not even in a position where you want one team over the other. Oh, we better win these so we don't get. It's kind of like
it's almost as if where your opponent's irrelevant.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that there's whoever it's going to be. Is Florida any worse an outcome than Tampa Bay, than Boston? I don't think Carolina. Maybe, I don't know.
I do worry, though, that when you are going into these last 10 games and you talked about it taking it a little easier, not necessarily, maybe not the right choice of words, but just kind of trying to plot your way through games is when bad stuff kind of happens.
Oh, yeah, you can't
when you get out of the rhythm, that's when scary things happen. And there's definitely going to be, in the Eastern Conference where things are pretty much sewn up, they are sewn up. One of these teams that's in a playoff race, that's in a Stanley Cup contention window, is going to have a big injury to one of their players.
I wonder if you just
hope it's not the Leafs. You just hope it's not the Leafs because it's a scary proposition playing these last 10 games, especially with teams that are out of the playoffs. Like, you have games against Detroit coming up, Buffalo tonight. Like, they're playing hard. Their Super Bowl right now is to beat the Leafs. So,
well, and if you ask under truth serum for the Buffalo Sabres, if where their Super Bowl really truly lied over the course of their season, many of them may go back to the outdoor game.
They checked all the boxes.
Right?
Yeah, they won the outdoor game. Owen Power's in the lineup. You know, they're doing great. They're beating the Leafs every chance they get. It is fascinating. So do you believe in the idea of giving guys rest and saying you can't go out and play 12 minutes for Mark Giordano? Do you sit him out? Do you sit out Mitch Marner?
Yeah, I think I find a way to show everybody that as much as, you know, we're enjoying this ride of Austin Matthews and can he get to 63, 65, 67, that I have to find a different way to show them that we're going to use these next 10 games to work on certain things, which could include that we may ask you to take a night off.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether or not you even go to Matthews and want to have that conversation.
Do you have to say anything to anyone? You're the coach or the GM. Say, you're not in tomorrow. See you next game. We're resting some guys. Why don't we listen to Sheldon Keefe talk about resting guys, and we'll carry on.
Yeah. Well, the conversations with the veterans are probably harder than anyone else because, I mean, as an example, you look out on the ice here right now, and Mark Giordano is the only defenseman on the ice skating, and it's because he feels that, in particular at his age, that the more he skates, the better he feels. The more he plays, the better he feels, and the more time away he takes, the body doesn't feel so good. It takes a while to get it back going. So the older players, Spez is the same way. Joe Thornton, when we had him here last year, same way. These guys want to keep moving, and they think it takes them longer to get fired back up again. So those conversations for those kind of guys are a little more difficult, but we do have to be smart about it.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Well, first of all, you know, I get that you're soon to be 39, Gio, but you're not my dad's 1986 Honda Civic, you know, where I got to plug in the block heater or else I got no chance of it starting tomorrow morning.
You know what, though? I didn't play at an older age. Is there something to the idea that, like, you take a couple days off and it's worse for you? No.
I don't think it's just a night off. Like, you can practice, you can ride the bike, you can lift weights. It's just a game off. So
yeah,
I
love that
necessarily
point. Don't overthink it.
I don't necessarily buy into the I can't start up again theory.
She was out there today. No one else is.
Right. So I know where that fine line is, and it's sometimes it can look at a strength or weakness on either side of where you stand on this, but you got to pick one and you just stick with it.
I feel the same way Sammy does, that like someone, not for the Leafs, but like people are going to get hurt down the stretch. The less you play your guys, it's like the trade deadline. I know I want this guy available at a certain time. I know I've beat this drum, but it made me crazy when Patrick Marleau played game 82 for the Toronto Maple Leafs to keep his consecutive games played streak intact. That made me really mental. Like, you're putting your personal thing in front of what's best for the team, which has arrested you. Yeah. And I don't want to see that if Matthews is chasing a goal record or Marner's chasing top
over,
5
though.
points.
In theory, it's over. So
no more milestones.
So, like, in all honesty, do we think 65? Do we think 63 would be like really less appealing than 65 or 67? Like, at the end of the day, it's just a number. It's like reading those free agent baseball players. Are you more impressed to hear that he signed for $311 million compared to like 292? Is it not just the same?
Yeah, Aaron Judge. Greedy, looking for 300 schmil instead of 270.
Yeah, isn't it? After you're past a certain number, don't they all sound the same? Anyways, does it really matter if Austin finishes with 62 or 65?
You know who it matters to? The people in the YouTube comments and on Twitter to say to the other people, say, "Oh, you think Ovi's the best goal scorer ever? Yes. Matthews has 66, so Ovi's never got past 65." That's who matters.
And get that conversation going again after you've got knocked out in the first round, because that will be your only saving grace in any conversation when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Right?
Yeah. Daggers, Kyper. Daggers. The calls coming from inside the house.
Austin Matthews scoring 60 plus is a horrible constellation prize for Leaf fans if they get knocked out in the first round.
Right.
You with me, Sammy?
Yeah. But honestly, Leaf fans been through so much that getting 60 goals is a hell of a thing. That's something that I never pictured ever seeing a Toronto Maple Leaf do, is score 60 goals. If they get put out, it sucks bad. And everyone was like, "Oh, yeah, do it in the regular season." Blah, blah, blah. I understand all that, but like having the 60 goals, you can't take that away.
But it is not what Leaf fans first and foremost want.
No.
It is not sitting atop the mountain or the pecking order.
No, it's not. I don't know. I thought JD Bunkus made an interesting point to us earlier today when he said Leafs fans are afraid to celebrate regular season victories and good things because the playoffs. They don't want to be the person who over celebrated Matthews and then you get blown up in the first round again.
We had that conversation in October. Leaf fans have had that conversation. But haven't they
done enough to move it into beyond? They had a good year to like a historic year. Like, can't it be relevant now that they're going to have 114 points when the Leaf season record is 105, or that Matthews has 62 goals when the franchise record was 54? Like, these are amazing things.
Yeah, I know. And Tampa's got that going, and Florida's got that going, and there's
Tampa had 126 points the year they got swept in round 1 by Columbus.
So it's okay to say that you are amongst the top teams this year, and there is somewhere down the road there's a good pat on the back for that, but it won't come.
Sign your hat at an autograph session.
It won't come until after we see this thing played out this spring.
I feel like I want to play in these games because I'm so sick of hearing about this, how this Leafs team can't play in the playoffs and can't get past the first round, whatever. Like, I can't imagine these guys must feel like Alaskan sled dogs. Like, let's just go. Let me go. Let me go.
10 more games.
I know.
So mentally, you do have to pace yourself a little bit here. And if you do see some guys in the next 10 games looking like they didn't plug their car into warm up with their block heater.
Gio needs his block heater.
You might know why, because it is a long season and it's grinding right now. And because of the last pandemic shutdown, we're forced into another 2.5, 3 weeks here.
Mm-hmm.
And it does feel like, oh my God, this is the season that won't end.
Yeah. So let's have Keith talk on that. Talk on Matthews and the Leafs being motivated.
I hadn't given it any thought, to be honest. I don't think Austin's need any extra motivation or fire lately. He's finding that himself, no matter who the opponent is. So I don't have any questions about whether or not he'll be ready to play tonight.
What about your team in general, having lost 2 in a row to them, including that outdoor game? How much motivation do you think that gives?
Yeah, I mean, we're hopeful that is something that kind of sparks our guys here. These are the kind of games that can be challenging. You know, we were just coming off clinching the playoff spot, and you got a non-playoff team coming in. But yeah, they've taken points from us for sure. We want to continue to refine our game. We think we're playing some of our best hockey this season right now. So lots of reasons for us to believe that we'll be better than we have been. But certainly these are the types of games that have been a problem for us, not just against Buffalo, but others. So, you know, like I said, I feel like our team's in a good spot right now.
Well, the good news is we said that Matthews' performance doesn't seem out of the ordinary in terms of the team focus, the team concept.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's just a progression of who they are and how they win, and it's led by this guy putting the puck in the net.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been real solid. Now, whatever it is driving him, they're in the ozone, they're creating, they're getting shots. You know what caught my ear, though, at the end there is he says, these are the type of games that have given us problems. And they're 2-3 against Buffalo in their last 5 games. No one mentioned it to the show in Buffalo. We may or may not owe them Harveys from the last loss, but
Haven't heard back from that one.
I know. But these guys...
Is it an American Harvey's burger or is it a Canadian Harvey's
We'll buy them up here and put it in a taxi or something. But they have struggled getting up for these games. I don't know if it's simple as they think it's going to be easy or what, but has been an issue in the past for whatever reason.
Do we see any type of fallback coming off of the outdoor game and Rasmus Dahlin, Austin Matthews?
Mm-hmm.
I think deep down, I would hope from a Leaf perspective that would find a way to enter tonight's game. If you're looking for different ways to kind of motivate yourself or pump up your tires a little bit or send a reminder, and it's just not even a reminder over to the other side of Buffalo, but it's a kind of a reminder too that you send to any other team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, he's our star player. Don't mess with him.
Well, yeah. And so I wonder if you think that should affect, I'm looking as you're talking for the lineup tonight. I haven't seen it yet. Do you think they should have in a couple of guys who can stir? Do you think Simmons and Clifford should play tonight? In case, here's my fear is someone says, we're Buffalo. We got nothing to lose. Matthews took a cross check to the head of our number 1 D-man. We're going to go ahead and let him know that's not okay. Take a couple extra liberties on him. You don't want Austin Matthews have an answer for that. It's a game that has very little meaning. In terms of, I don't think if you dress Simmons and Clifford, it makes you that much worse than if you dress whatever the alternative, Abruzzese or whoever.
Yeah. Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, for sure. You're asking me a question. Would I just cover myself a little bit with that, with those type of players? Absolutely.
What's the harm?
Right?
I mean, you think they're good enough to play for your team? Put them in.
I don't, the next 10 games, I don't necessarily think Sheldon needs to kind of show all his cards on his lineup.
Yeah.
That he can pull it back a little bit and, like we said, pull out certain players and just say, hey, tonight your night is off.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you want to go to Mitch Marner or Austin with 3 games to go or 2 games to go,
mm-hmm.
or do it earlier, later on this week. But it's okay. It's okay for teams now that are going to scout you, and whether it's going to be Tampa Bay or Boston, to watch the remaining games, because they're going to get scouted, right, in the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
That those teams, those potential matchup teams, are going to now follow the Toronto Maple Leafs and try to absorb everything they can from them. You don't have to show your cards. And I want to go back to even that debacle in Florida, and ending up with Jack Campbell in the lineup or bringing back Muzzin. Like, that was his first game back, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have played Muzzin in that Florida game.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have. Again, you don't get to see Muzzin. You don't get to see Jack Campbell. Leave those mysteries if we match up with you in the playoffs. But don't show your cards right now this close to the end of the year.
Yeah, having done some video work on teams, like, okay, we're going to play this team in playoffs. You're right. It's about 2 weeks where, you're following, watching every game, clipping every special teams play and say, here's what their tendencies are, what they like to do. Because it changes throughout the year, right? It evolves. All right, they find something new or some other look that works. And so you need their most recent play. You know what catches my attention, too, is game 82. You know who that's against? The Boston Bruins.
Kind of lineups that going to look like?
Well, I don't know. There's a chance it's a game for home ice, or it's a game for who's going to drop into the wild card and who's going to be. There's a chance it's a very meaningful game in terms of who your opponent is going to be.
And I am comfortable for the Leafs going into Boston the first 2 games.
Either the split
and getting a split out of there.
But the Leafs.
I'm way too confident in the Leafs right now. I know it's stupid, but
so you think that Boston would come into Toronto and get the split? Because Leafs are way ahead of.
I think there'd be more pressure to
perform if they're
perform well or win the first 2 games.
Yeah, they're 5 points clear in the Bruins right now with the same amount of games played. So if they were going to play the Bruins at this point, it's trending towards to it being.
They
Toronto
also have
for
the
first 2
tiebreaker
games.
too.
So
yeah,
I wouldn't like it.
Make up 6.
Wouldn't like it. I can just picture coming in here after the first Wednesday of the NHL playoffs and seeing Kyper and seeing you
0-1.
down 0-1 after Marchand gets a hattie and Pasta's shooting it in the net and being a big S disturber.
Right.
I can just picture it at this very moment. And I'm not liking it. Let's just say that.
They got Lindholm out of the lineup. They got Pasternak out of the lineup, Boston. So they're a ways away from showing their full cards.
Well, this is everyone, I don't know if Ekblad is back yet.
No.
But, there's a lot of teams are still dealing with major injuries to key players. The one thing that's fascinating is Tampa Bay. I think they've got everyone last time I checked, and I know they won their last game, but yeah, they're still flailing a little bit. So that is right now, were it to end, they would have Tampa Bay in the first round. Vasilevsky, Hedman, Point, Cirelli. It'll be fine. Kucherov, Stamkos.
The one focus, I think, going in the last 10 games for me, too, is you want to be executing well on your power play. And I think they went 0 for 5 against Montreal.
This killed them last year. They slumped on the power play headed towards the postseason. Then
again, you're going to be very careful on selecting, I guess, when and if you're going to ask certain players to be out. But this is one of those things where their power play has been great all year. Does it still sit at number 1? Is it still in the 30s? Is it flirting a little bit? How high did it get?
It was up to 35 at one point.
I think it was
their first in the NHL at 29.4.
29. Okay, so
26.4 is in second. So they're
This is the first time in a while it's been under 30, if I'm not mistaken. And that's because they went 0 for Saturday night.
Yeah.
But
they had so many good looks, so Kip.
Yeah, and
they were all
Nylander
over.
hit the post. And no question about that. But
Nylander's dented some iron lately.
But no one wants to have a conversation after the first round's over that it looked good.
But listen, the difference between this year's power play, and I would agree that it's been a little bit of a swoon. I mean, like you said, they went 0 for. But there hasn't been stretches of the season this year where their power play looked like it did last year at the end. It started at this start of the year, it didn't look very good, and they kind of worked out of it. Remember, we were talking about all the different adjustments they were making, and it's looked pretty consistently good all the way through. Last year, they were historic for the first month, and then they were never good again.
Yeah.
And now they even when they're not scoring, they're still in the zone. They're still snapping it around.
Yeah.
Guys are moving. It still looks like a good unit. And if you're heading into a playoff series, it still gives me confidence that it's going to be able to score. What gives me greater confidence is the penalty kill. The penalty kill to me is
it's fun.
It's just an enjoyable unit that has so much speed and skill on it that it gives me more confidence going into a playoff series.
For a very long time, they've never really focused on killing the penalty, but finding ways to score themselves.
I know.
Which is incredible. And it's led by Mitch Marner, guys. I mean, every time he's
100%.
out there, he is thinking, don't sleep on me, or else I will make you look really bad.
I'm telling you, were I coaching a power play against the Leafs, I'd be like, we're going to run it from behind the net. We're going to run it off the half walls. We
don't flutter
even
anything.
The high guy.
Yeah, I was like, don't flutter anything up to the point, man.
Yeah.
An accomplishment now
Downhill
for
to the
teams
net.
on the power play is not giving
Break
up a
even.
shortened goal, a shorthanded goal.
No, for real. It's been deadly.
We also got Jason York. He's going to join us momentarily. Eddie Olchuk in about 20 minutes, former NHLer, broadcaster with TNT. Always fun to get into what's going on around the National Hockey League with Eddie. And in the second hour, Sam Constantino, junior hockey and NHL analyst for Sportsnet. And we get to tee up a little bit more Owen Power.
Yeah.
Toronto boy.
Yes.
First pick overall. Starts his NHL debut tonight. Trying to shut down Austin
I know.
Matthews.
His first
nice
pro,
assignment.
Yeah, his first pro practice is in the Ford Performance Center, which his mom ran because he's a Toronto boy. So he had his skating coach there. He had a whole army of people who saw him growing up. What a year for him. You know, the Olympic team, the World Juniors, the college experience. Now he's playing for the Sabres. Yeah, like you said, draw Austin Matthews in Toronto. Godspeed, big fella.
And they need all the positive stories they can get. Buffalo and
11 straight years, no playoffs.
I do like them. And the team that I did watch in that outdoor game, there was a strong suggestion that they've got some character guys in that room that they like each other. They play hard for each other. They protect each other. The Rasmus Dahlin,
They love
Matthews
that Tuck
scenario.
too that they got from
Tuck's
Vegas,
really turned
Buffalo
into
guy.
a good leader for them, a good voice.
Yeah, and he's like proud to be from Buffalo. Like he's a part of that community. Big fan of Tuck.
All right, let's bring in Jason York, guy that doesn't hold back on this show.
No.
Love having Yorkie on our show. How are you, Jason?
Hey, Kyper. Hey, likewise. I love being on with you guys. Barney, how you doing?
Doing great, buddy. Doing great.
So we were just discussing at the top of the show that we've got regular season fatigue. We're done with it. And now they tell us that it's 10 more games in the season. This has historically been the time, Yorkie, as players, we got ready, the extra hour, the sun's out, the weather's great. It's spring playoff hockey.
Don't even start with the fatigue, Kyper. Let's go back to the days when guys were flying non-charters, going commercial, back-to-backs, having to play 80 games and having to drink between games. Like, come on. like
Big responsibility that was.
let's keep it. Well, that's when there was a real home advantage because the other team was staying over after every games. But no, I hear you. Condensed schedule this year. I get it. Guys are a little tired, but
God.
the one thing though, Kyper, the one thing you hit on there, the sun's out, the weather's getting nice. If you can't be energized heading into the playoffs right now, my oh my, check your heart rate.
So I'm not dropping any names here, but my rookie year, there was a veteran. So we played 2 games in a row, traveled, played 2 games in a row, like Yorkie said. So we practiced after game 2 at home, but we were going to go to the airport.
Mm-hmm.
There'd be a couple of cold ones in the dressing room.
What a world.
A couple of cold ones on the way to the airport, but you stopped for lunch first. Then you grabbed a couple of more for the flight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, this veteran's in like 10 beers right now. And it's an off day. And it'd be like,
And a team thing. You're traveling with the team.
and I'm like, oh my God, this is the NHL. All right. And go out there and be one of the best players in game 3.
It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Like going back to when you had training, and I was lucky because I got to catch the tail end of that kind of hockey, and that old school hockey where you came to training camp and it was all about working hard on the ice, but it was more about bonding and going for beers. And using training camp, I guess, to get in shape. I didn't have that luxury, but a lot of guys had that luxury and took full advantage of training camp.
When we look at the Eastern Conference, including the Toronto Maple Leafs here, and You've locked up a position for a very long time. You think Sheldon and some other coaches in the East will have a tough time here keeping the guys engaged for 10 more games and yet find a way to make them feel like everything's building up towards game one?
I don't think so. I think there's a pretty good group of older guys in that dressing room. I like Spezza would be a guy that knows the importance of heading into the playoffs. Like, you don't want to get hurt. You don't want to go in there beat up and tired, but at the same time, I think you have to be going into the playoffs playing well and playing the right way. And you look at where Toronto's sitting right now. I took a peek at the standings before I came on, and man, if I'm the Toronto Maple Leafs, as crazy as this sounds, I would rather play the Tampa Bay Lightning. To me, I just think that style of hockey suits the Toronto Maple Leafs a little bit better. So I think in the back of your mind, number one, you want to be playing good hockey. And I know a lot of the guys weren't there for some of those Boston series, but I would want no part of the Boston Bruins right now.
Feel the same way?
I am listening to Yorkie and checking the standings. I agree. Yeah.
Okay, let me ask both of you, and I'll start with you first, Yorkie. What is it that Toronto can exploit Tampa Bay that they can't necessarily the Boston Bruins?
I just think there's less pressure. I think there's less pressure because if you play the and players, once the pucks drop, they don't think about this. At least I didn't. If you go into a series and you lose against the Tampa Bay Lightning, you can say, well, it's Tampa Bay Lightning, Stanley Cup champs. Yeah. Like, there's an excuse. There's no excuse for losing to the Boston Bruins this year. And that's, to me, where the pressure comes from. There's no excuse. The Toronto Maple Leafs, on paper, should beat the Boston Bruins. There's no debate about that. But Tampa Bay Lightning, hey, you can make an excuse. So there's a built-in excuse. And I don't think players think about that, but it might be in the back of their minds a little bit.
Yeah, it's the Lightning have given up 30 more goals or something, more goals than Boston, whatever the number is. I just think that style of play maybe is a little bit more conducive for the Leafs.
Yeah, me too, Barney.
There's no easy answer, I guess, at the end of the day.
No, no, there isn't. And listen, I really think, and I don't want to jinx the Toronto Maple Leafs, I really think they're going to get it done in the first round this year. I really I'm watching Matthews play right now. He's at a different level. He's at a different level than 99% of the guys in the league right now. The way he's shooting the puck, the way he's feeling it. And I'm of the opinion last year when they lost, I didn't think Matthews was that bad. I really didn't. I thought he had a lot of good looks. I don't think the Toronto Maple Leafs lost because Austin Matthews didn't show up. I just think he was a little snake bitten in that playoff, and I think he's going to learn from that. And if I was to bet on somebody breaking out in the playoffs, it's not hard considering he got 58 goals right now.
Yeah, he scores a bit.
Going out on a limb, but if you look at playoff paths, I can kind of see him figuring it out this year in the playoffs and having and at least having a first round and helping Toronto get out of that first round.
You think Sheldon's in a bit of a pickle here on how to utilize him the next 10 games, or heaven forbid, give him a day off? I mean, do you want to mess with that? Do you want to jinx it? Do you want to, play a factor on potentially adding or subtracting from his record?
Man, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because he's chasing down history. The more goals he gets here, the more he pads his lead for goal scoring by Toronto Maple Leaf. At the same time, imagine if he got hurt. Here I go again, maybe jinxing the Leafs going into the playoffs. Man, that's one guy you can't afford to get hurt, get banged up, get nicked up. I wouldn't want to be Sheldon Keith right now. I don't know. I wouldn't because as a coach, the right thing to do would be to, if you could pick your spots, like maybe we get to the last couple of games here and they know where they're going to be in the standings, to give him a rest, give him a break. But then you think, well, do I want to sit him down because he's in such a role right now, man? That's a tough one, Kyper. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm with you. It is very difficult.
I just think if it's not broken, don't try and fix it. Just keep let him doing what he's doing, because whatever he's doing is working. and you don't want to get in the way of maybe stopping what he's doing.
It's funny. He said, Keefe said a quote today that it's easier to have the conversation with the young guys than the old guys because the old guys want to keep playing. He said, he said Gio wants to stay on the ice because he feels better when he keeps in a rhythm. He said Thornton didn't want to come out for the same reason that Spezza likes to keep playing, doesn't like taking days off. Did you feel as you got older in your career that time off made you feel worse when you came back?
No, I liked having time off because I don't know. These guys sound like they're like in their 40s or 50s. It's like when you get to my age, you got to keep moving. Like they say, motion is lotion. They're not there yet. Like I just think you just had. I really do believe this. And my last year in Boston, I really appreciated the game, and I loved playing. My body physically couldn't do it anymore. But the older you get, you kind of figure out how lucky you are to play this game, how fortunate you are, and you want to suck in every last moment, every last shift, because I used to think, man, was I ever stupid when I was young? I took for granted, and you don't realize how special it is. And I think that's probably part of it, what Gio thinks, what Spezza thinks, is I don't want to take a game off. I don't know how much longer I'm going to play this game for. I want to play every single minute I can. And I think that would be the biggest reason, guys. And I think, hey, if you want to tell them whatever you think is going to make it work to keep them in the lineup. So, hey, I need to keep playing to loosen up. Sure, yeah, that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to go with that one. Like, come on, rest is important. I don't believe that for 1 second. You can go ride the bike. You can go stretch. That's the same thing as moving, at least in my book. So, no, I just think they just love playing, guys, and they want to soak it all in.
You know, the one thing that doesn't change, and it doesn't matter whether you've played 2 games or 1,200, is that competitive feel that you have, and ultimately, no matter how secure you feel, it's still sitting out and having someone come in and take your job for just a short period of time.
Like weird, Joe Thornton said he likes to keep moving and stay in. He didn't want to sit.
Right? I was like the king of healthy scratches, man. It's still somebody else that takes your job away from you, even though it's temporary.
Especially a guy like Jason Spezza. There's been times when he's had to sit as a healthy scratch in Toronto, and we all know this. Careers are usually started by somebody getting an opportunity, getting into the lineup. And unfortunately, careers are ended that way too, where a young guy gets in and he comes in and plays well. And you're sitting out that game for a rest. All of a sudden, that little rest you're getting is more of, hey, that young guy can come in. He can do it cheaper. He's younger. And especially come playoff times. You've seen young guys come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they get an opportunity in the playoffs. They bring that youthful exuberance in, and the coach says, hey, with this energy is great. So I'm with you on that one too, Kyper. You never want to not play and give somebody else an opportunity of stealing your job, no matter how old or how much money you have in the bank. You just don't want somebody to take what you have.
I feel like we should be playing Lion King's Circle of Life right now. Circle of Life. That's just the way it goes.
Yorkie, we'll never ask you to be a healthy scratch on this show.
Oh man, I used to do a radio show in Ottawa for 3 years with a good friend of mine, Steve Lloyd. That was the name of our show. We were called the Healthy Scratches. Brutal name. I didn't come up with it, by the way.
All right, Yorkie, we're gonna let you go, but as always, man, thanks for joining us.
Anytime, fellas. Anytime. Have a good one.
Thanks, Yorkie.
Jason York, Hockey Night in Canada analyst. Even watching a guy like Blackwell get traded, that's another guy that now has come in and given a fourth line more of a look, a presence. But it could come at the expense of Jason Spezza now, maybe even for game 1.
Yeah. I want to see this guy get a chance somewhere else up the lineup, by the way. And I know that's not exactly what you're talking about, but Blackwell's been great, I've thought.
Oh, I totally see that. That he can, depending on the flow of the game or whether you're down a goal or you're looking for a momentum shift. That guy
sleepy player, say he'll go plug in the energy bug.
He can work his way right up there with Tavares.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I think there's a world in which you see him play alongside Mikheyev and Tavares at some point in the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe you try it out
Yeah.
these 10 games before the end of the regular
Yeah.
season, but his puck pursuit, his tenacity, his just being like a little pain in the ass out there is really shown. And I think he deserves a couple shots higher up.
And he'll
I
get him
agree.
too.
Just was like, what if Kasha's able to come back? You know, like there's a world where this lineup could look
How
real
long
good.
has Kasha been out now?
A month.
He's gonna need a few games. If there's a chance that he's gonna play in the playoffs, you just hope he can get a couple of games in. That's a very big ask.
Can I say he's cooked?
We ain't seeing him.
There's two things that concern me a little bit. One is
If he's healthy, I would
they'll put him
find a
in.
way
They'll
to.
put him in.
You think-
I need
they
depth.
put in Andreas Janssen in Game 5 against the Columbus Blue Jackets when he had been injured for a month plus whatever. They plugged him right in.
There's boys. I'm telling you, there's this. You're in it for the long run, and that's where the 7th, 8th, 9th defensemen come in, or your 12th, 13th, and 14th forward come in. There's going to be some suspensions, some injuries, guys disappearing, Muzzin not 100%. It's going to take the whole village here, boys.
Yeah, the only thing I'm saying with Kasha is just really, he's had a lot of concussion issues, and bringing a guy back who had another concussion into the heat of a playoff series against a rough and tumble team, it just concerns me about the guy.
I wonder if-
he's had some, like, I mean, I'm telling you, Kipper, like, you know what the concussion stuff, it's scary, and he's had a lot of stuff going on.
I only speak if he's got clearance and he
Yeah.
feels like he can do it and he's back 100%.
It just
That's the only.
he's
that's
got to
the only
change the way he
it
plays.
works.
He's got to change the way he plays a little bit if he's going to stick around.
I wonder though, like he's had the conversation with himself, I'm sure, about like, do I want to keep putting myself out there and making myself vulnerable to this sort of thing? And then he's decided to come back and show the league, give me another chance. Does he want to do it again? Give me another chance.
Ooh, speaking of, give me a chance. Give me a chance. Eddie Olchuk. After the break, Derek, get it ready.
Give me a chance.
We're back after this.
is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
How do you go from one game to 14 one game last night to 14 tonight?
I don't know the guy's name, but it's something like Stephen Hatzis Patsaros or something. I think it's probably Greek, actually.
Oh, yeah. That's how you go from 1 to 14. All right. Speaking of, just give me a chance. Our favorite. Our favorite. You know, I was with Mike Hartman. I was with some of the boys last weekend, Eddie. Somebody dropped like 125 to play a few of us on MSG ice. Someone said if you step up to 250, you get Ed Olchuk, but they didn't. They didn't bite. They didn't bite.
Yeah, no, that's not happening. So okay, so Justin, nice to be with you. I hope you're doing well. And so Kyper, so how many did you get? I mean, how many did you go top shelf, forehand, backhand? Did you try to be like Austin Matthews? Like, what were your?
Yes,
how was your
did.
game?
I did, and I failed miserably, and I scored one goal. And after in the lineup where we shook hands with this team, the goalie comes up to me and he goes, man, I was I mishandled it because I was expecting something harder. I'm like, okay.
Hey, Kyper. Hey. Just for the record, because I am just a tad older than you are. That's what happens when you get older.
Nothing. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for the reminder. The best was Brian Leach saying, I'm retiring again from this. This is my second retirement. He said he left going, I don't think I'll ever put equipment on ever again after that performance.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
How are you, Eddie? Where are you?
I'm doing well. I'm actually fighting traffic. I'm actually headed down in Chicago. I got the Hawks and Kings tonight, and then I'll fly to Philadelphia in the morning. I got TNT tomorrow and Flyers and Rangers, and then I'll be back here on Thursday night for Chicago and San Jose. So I got a nice busy week this week, but all is good, and when the playoffs are right around the corner, and a lot of teams will be hitting single digits here before long, and as we all know, that means playoff hockey's right around the corner, so it's a great time of year.
Yeah, really exciting. Go ahead,
Oh,
Kyper.
I was just going to say, before we get into that and so much more, I got to ask you about your thoughts just overall on Austin Matthews and what he's doing. And, you know, Eddie, for me, I go back, to 2004 with the lockout and coming back, and how from that moment on, everything was geared to open up the freedom to the likes of Ovechkin and Crosby and players that come after them. And the NHL has been really geared towards all these rules to start finding guys ways to put the puck in the net. And now Austin on the cusp of 60 goals is for the NHL. I guess they can't be happier that they're getting guys in this ballpark again.
Well, it's in sports in general. I mean, look what the rules in the National Football League have done, Kyper, over the last handful of years. I mean, you've really put, defensive coordinators and defensive players really in a tougher spot, and a way to generate and funnel, the game towards more offense. And, whether it was the juice baseball for a handful of years, or starting extra innings with guys on second base, or whatever it is. I mean, the National Hockey League was one of the first to sit there and go, okay, well, let's really sit down and try to figure out how we can generate more offense. Just because you generate more offense doesn't mean players in the National Hockey League are going to be able to score. You can name 15 guys right now that you could give them 100 chances, and there's a pretty good chance that maybe they only score on one. You give Austin Matthews 2 chances, he's got a pretty good chance of scoring 2 goals right now, just because of how great he is. So, look, I think the rules have certainly opened up the game. It is generated, more opportunities. The way the game is called by the officials. and the skill level of the younger players. You go back to 04, Kyper. I think it certainly is that skill is being emphasized. There's more freedom. There's less hooking and holding and clutching and grabbing. And, I don't want to say dump and chase type of hockey, but, playing with a little bit more control, taking the center line out, starting face-offs on power plays in the offensive zone. So you're right. I mean, it does cater to offensive players. And when you get a guy like Austin Matthews, or we've seen it for how many years with Patrick Kane, these guys are super skilled and they don't need a lot to create and generate and eventually finish. So, look, there's something for having an open game. There's something for having chances. But when you have the chances, you got to be able to put the puck into the back of the net or at least make a pass and be that type of player. And Austin Matthews has just been, he's been lights out. There's no doubt about it. And it's fun to see. I was really, and having, played, almost 4 years in Toronto, and really kind of where my career kind of took off is when I got traded from Chicago, my hometown, to the Leafs. And, almost the fall of 1987, I got traded for Rick Vaive. It was a big, massive trade between the Hawks and the Leafs. And knowing Squid had scored, 50 goals a couple of times and been the captain of the Maple Leafs and having gone there, and then my first year going there and not really feeling a lot of pressure, to be honest with you. I mean, I felt more pressure playing at home than I did playing in Toronto. But, what I'm getting at is that when you get on a roll as a goal scorer, you just think that every time you go out on the ice, and I don't care what era it is, you just feel like you're going to score. And watching Austin Matthews and seeing him take that picture with Rick Vaive, whether it was yesterday or 2 years ago, kind of the past with the present, is a former Leaf and is just an old time guy. I really appreciated that picture, and what Austin Matthews is doing is just absolutely lights out, and it is great to see. So right now the confidence level is through the roof, and yeah, forget 60, Kyper. I mean, he looks like he's on the verge of 65, and that is just an incredible number for any player in the National Hockey League, let alone somebody that is, holds the all-time record for most goals in the great history of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Eddie, with all these rule changes and all the scoring, do you think there's a world where a door has been opened up for a team to win a Stanley Cup that isn't a defense as a priority team, a physical team as a priority? We've said for years, right? Goaltending wins championships. You got to play defense. It's all about that sort of thing. Could you score a way to a Stanley Cup in this era, or is it always revert back to the way it's been in the past once you get into that postseason?
I would say just, again, thinking about all the different eras, and, I came in, Justin, back in the early 80s, and that very well with the Islanders and then the Oilers. And, I look at that Edmonton Oiler team, and the best defense in the world is when you have the puck, and that Oiler run from, 84 to 87 or 88, whatever it was, like, they had the mindset of, we may give up 5 or 6, but we could get 8 or 9, no problem. That's, again, I know it's different, and the game is way different now than it was back in the, in the early 80s or even the 90s or the early 2000s. But I think that it will happen just because, as you know, Justin, as far as the numbers and the analytics, I think, you're going to get a matchup where, you may get the roll of the dice in every round where you just know that you're going to be able to outchance the other team that you're playing, and they may get their chances. But we know that we're going to end up eventually putting the puck in the back of the net, and if we have to win game 6-4 or 5-3, we know we can do that. So I'd like to think that you could win anyway. I don't know if that's really the way that you should plan it or want to go into it, but I think it will. I think it will eventually happen where a team just sits there and goes, goes through a series and wins it and scores 5 or 6 goals every game while giving up, 3 or 4 every game. I see that happen. Really quick, when I was a rookie in the National Hockey League, I was playing with the Chicago Blackhawks. We played against the Oilers in the conference finals in '85. So this is like May of '85. That series still to this day, it was a 6-game series. It is still the NHL record for the most goals scored in a 6-game series in the Stanley Cup playoffs in the history of the greatest championship in all of professional sports. Don't quote me, but I think there were 63 goals scored in those 6 games. And I will say this, is that the first 2 games we played in Edmonton, of course, the Oilers had home ice. The Oilers beat us, I believe, like 8-2 and like 10-3 the first 2 games of the series.
Way to D
and
up.
Somehow we came back home to Chicago and beat them like 7-3 and like, 4-1 or 4-2. And then from there it was like 9-2 and 8-1. And then the rest is history. So, could a team do that? Hey, why not? As long as the game is called the same way and, the team stays on a run and, they play that way and go, we know we can't defend very well and we're going to try to blow a team out of the rink and maybe they can get maybe it is the first 1-6 for some teams. So, yes, long-winded. Justin, I think there will be that team. Now, maybe not the whole playoff, but I think a high percentage of it where a team could just outscore somebody else and so-called not so worry about how many goals that they give up.
Please tell me in that series a couple went off your ass.
Hey, you get a couple?
All I know is that the video. All I know is the video doesn't lie. Is that I think in games 3 or 4, I went coast to coast, went around a guy by the name of Paul Coffey, shorthanded, and fired one past Grant Fuhr. And I think those 2 names are both in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So enough said, Kyper.
Nice, nice. That's what we like to hear on this show. Earlier, Edzo, we had Jason York on, and he thought that the Tampa Bay Lightning would be a better start in round 1 versus the Leafs for no other reason that you're supposed to lose. All the pressure would be on the defending Stanley Cup champions. Do you buy into that?
No, he's saying that Tampa would have more pressure than the Leafs?
Yes. To win.
I don't see it at all. I do not see it all. I do not see it that way at all. The Leafs have pressure on them regardless of who they play. Look at Tampa's already got 2 in their back pocket. They're going in there and there are going to be a lot of people that are going to look at Tampa and go with all the changes and, they've been struggling here. You don't know what's going on with Ryan McDonough. Vasilevsky looks like he's kind of just gotten a little tired here, and rightfully so. The guy's played 1,000 games in 3 years. I mean, of course you're going to get tired. But to me, just that series right there, not a chance. I would not think that Tampa has any pressure to play the Maple Leafs. I think all the pressure is on the Maple Leafs because, if they don't make a run, I got to imagine there's going to be some casualties at some point.
No, it'll be fine.
So, well,
no, I'm kidding.
Only time will tell. But to me, I do not see it that way. I think.
Okay, interesting.
I think the pressure is totally on the Leafs.
All right,
that's just my opinion.
Yeah. It's ramping up. I agree. A lot of heat on the Leafs here. As much as I enjoy piling on the Leafs pressure, I want to talk to you about the West a little bit and what's going on out there. What are your thoughts on Vegas? Where they're at, and if they get in, is there a chance here that things get interesting if they sneak in as a low seed?
Well, if that ends up being the case, does it not mean there's a collision course there between the Avs and the Golden Knights?
Right, love it.
Look at how awesome would that be? Look at the West. I think is Colorado, Calgary. And here next Monday night in Chicago. So looking forward to them, seeing them and how well that Johnny Hockey has just been. How awesome has he been this year? So, Vegas is interesting, Justin, just because they really haven't had a full roster here all season long. And, whether it's been injuries or COVID or making trades and then having to rescind a trade and then bringing the guy back in the locker room. The guy scores a game-winning goal in back-to-back games. They've had everything that you could imagine. Talking about another team that if they don't get in or or lose out in the first round, another team that has, they have a boatload of pressure on them for sure, 100%. And that would be really interesting. But you get Mark Stone back, hopefully, Pacioretty can stay healthy. The goaltending situation, you need Robin Leonard to be just that as well. They would be a dangerous team, but they got to find their way in. And last time I looked, they're only a couple of points here behind LA now, and the games have kind of come together as far as the games played. That would be they'd be a real interesting team, is if they can all get healthy and get through the salary cap numbers and what have you. But that'll be an interesting story, not only if they make it or if they don't make it, and then what happens moving forward, depending come playoff time.
You played the game a long time. You broadcasted a long time. And you mentioned Leonard. Can you ever recall so many goalies going into a first round unproven or having an opportunity to truly make a name for themselves?
Well, how come you didn't mention that I coached too, Kyper? Did you have it just like a blackout there? Did you forgot that I coached too, or do you want to not talk about that?
And anything I add to that just will make you feel that much older. That's all.
Hey, that's what the little blue M&Ms are for. Don't worry about it. Okay, look, when it does come to that goaltending, as we all know it, and Justin, you touched on it before about how goaltending and defense wins and whatever, and yeah, there will be certain guys that will have that pressure thrown at them, whether they're the starter or they come in relief or they're a rookie or they've been in and out of, COVID protocol or on and off, injury. You just need them to be consistent, Kyper, right? And you can't leave your goaltenders out to dry. I mean, unless you are maybe a team like Colorado or a team like Florida that could just probably outscore anybody if they decided, to play that way. Maybe Vegas has to play that way. Maybe they do. But I think when, you got Martinez back, McNabb, their defense is like they're pretty good. I think that you just mentioned Leonard's name. If you can insulate him and just expect him and ask him to make the routine save 100% of the time, you're going to give yourself a chance to win. But in certain areas and certain markets, the pressure is certainly on those guys that are going to be in the blue paint, whether it's the guy that's starting or maybe it's the third string goaltender. You better get it, and it better be consistent, because if not, it's going to be a very short run in the playoffs.
One thing that has people excited here is the Matthews' potential chance to win a Hart Trophy. Hasn't happened in Toronto. I think it's been 67 years since a Hart Trophy was won here. What are your thoughts on Matthews' competition and who gives him the best run at it? Obviously, a number of quality candidates. I don't think it's a runaway by any means.
No, he certainly would be in my top three. I've been touting Roman Josi for a while, Justin, thinking about that he's on the verge of getting 100 points. I know he's kind of gone a little cold here. And look at he's got 87, 88 points, whatever it is. I mean, the guy's bound to go cold for a couple of games. But if he gets to 100 points, and we haven't had a 100-point scoring defenseman in the National Hockey League in 30 years. And Kyper, it's our former teammate. You mentioned him earlier. Brian Leach is the last defenseman to get 100 points, I believe, in the National Hockey League. So, to me, if he gets to 100 points and Nashville makes it, Justin, I'd be shocked if he isn't a finalist for the Hart Trophy. Like, I really, in all due respect, Jonathan Huberdeau has had an unbelievable season. I mentioned Johnny Hockey. He has had an unbelievable season. You want to throw Igor Shesterkin in there if somehow that the Rangers win the division and take over from Carolina, you got to think that he's going to get some votes. We know Austin Matthews as a slam dunk is going to be a finalist without question. Look at what McDavid and Draisaitl are doing, not only scoring, but look at their team. Look at the job that, Todd Woodcroft has done there. So, I think you could go a lot of ways. Maybe the vote ends up getting split and maybe somebody ends up, maybe backdooring Justin on the, eventually winning the Hart Trophy. But, seeing what Matthews is doing, and offense sells, it's sexy and rightfully so. but I would not underestimate if Roman Josi can get to that 100-point total. To me, he would be in my top 2 100%, and then wherever the vote lies.
One more for me, Edzo, and you've got a pulse in Chicago. Where is the story go with Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, and is it simply their call on where they see their future?
Fair question. I don't know, Kyper. They do hold all the cards. Very similar to guys that have no movements and could sit there and dictate the terms and ask to be moved or go to a certain spot. Look at the card that Claude Giroux played, right? Like over the course of the season, Claude Giroux was open to a couple of different places. Colorado being one, Florida obviously being one. The Rangers took a major run at Claude Giroux, and there was some interest by Claude Giroux to go to the New York Rangers. And from what I understand, the best package of any of the three was from the New York Rangers. But as the season went on, and when you do give out these no movement clause, the player dictates the terms, and all of a sudden it's like, nah, I just want to go here. So you're asking your general manager to play a game of 5-card stud with really 2 cards. And they did, they made a heck of a deal. Owen Tippett and some, a prospect and a couple of picks. But when the player drives the bus, the general manager and the team just, you just say, yes, where do you want to go? And we'll try to make the best deal. Now, it becomes very easy for the teams that are getting these players, easy from the aspect of, well, we know he wants to come here, so we don't have to give up, as much as we probably should because the player is dictating the terms. So in saying that, Kyper, whether or not Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane want to play out the string here and hit free agency, they have earned that right, especially after winning 3 Stanley Cups. And I know Kyle Davidson, he said this publicly, is that, the conversations will happen. We'll see what the players want to do because they hold the cards and go from there. But, interesting times for sure in the major rebuild here in Chicago, and 2 guys that have really helped turn this franchise and a renaissance of Blackhawk hockey here over the course of the last, 15, 16 years.
Edzo, you asked us to give you a chance on this show, and you delivered.
Justin, nice to be with you. Talk to you soon.
Always is, Eddie. Thank you.
Eddie Olchuk.
See you, Kyper. Love you,
pal. Love you, too. Yeah, well, they won cups in Chicago, but that was a long time ago. And
I thought that was a great question.
Pat Kane's still in his prime and wants to win again.
I don't know why it always felt like in my head that Patrick Kane would be the first one to leave of him and Toews, but Toews really has that and I'm not to say Kane doesn't, but that Canadian hockey guy, the only thing that's ever mattered is the Stanley Cup mentality. Winning. He's just that.
He's
and not that Kane
serious.
doesn't. Not that Kane doesn't. But he is this is his whole life has been this tunnel at Stanley Cups.
Get out of my way. If you're not thinking like I'm thinking, I have no time for you.
He doesn't seem like a guy who's going to do a Ryan Getzlaf thing and be like, I'm going to just, Anaheim's probably not going to win, but I like being in one jersey, Cups.
Just a piece of housekeeping. You said to Eddie O that we were talking about the Blackhawks, about the Lightning having the more pressure. What Yorkie said was that the Leafs would have more pressure against the Bruins than they would against the Lightning.
Yeah,
right.
But
that's right.
What you said to Eddie, that the Lightning would have more pressure than the Leafs in the first round. That's why he was and he was taken aback by it. So he made Yorkie sound
did I not phrase that?
He made Yorkie sound like a bit of a
There'd be more pressure on the Leafs to beat Tampa.
No, to beat Boston than there would be to beat Tampa. That's what.
Yes.
So
I thought I framed it.
I don't want. I'm not trying to bury you or whatever.
No,
but
that's
I just
fine. If I didn't do a good job of,
you do a good job every day, but I just don't want to bury our boy Yorkie because he comes on all the time.
No, it was not. No, I understood it that there would be more upside for if the Leafs lost. it's
better that they lose to
better
Tampa.
to lose to a team that we were supposed to lose to, essentially.
Or a team that they don't have a historical boogeyman aspect with. Like the Boston
and
Bruins.
no better time to start a new one than to lose to Tampa Bay in the first round.
I mean, how many other teams in the division do they lose to?
We got tired of the boogeyman from Boston. Let's go get a new boogeyman.
Yeah, from down in the south. Anyways, I just wanted to bring that up.
Quebec.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We got Sam Constantino up next. He's going to talk to us about Owen Powers and his debut with the Buffalo Sabres tonight. Could he have a little Jonathan Taves in him?
Also, Nyes. I would like to ask him about Mr. Nyes.
Now, what's the report out there that he's still going to talk to Kyle Dubas and they're going to get together? The sense is that maybe they're trying to get him to change his mind, that the feeling is he wants to go back to school, or is this just a little bit of window dressing?
Well, there's no middle ground for the guy. Like, he can't go play in the American League if it doesn't work out. So it's like NHL or bust. I think you probably have to tell him, yes, you're going to play in the NHL. Let's talk to Sammy. Sammy will give us the update.
From one semi to another after the break. You're listening and watching Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet's YouTube channel, Sportsnet 590 The Fan, and wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Han Solo back.
If you're Han Solo, Sammy's Chewbacca.
No, you're Chewbacca.
Oh, damn it.
What would Sam be?
Am I Princess Leia with this pink shirt on today?
How about Sam Constantino? Who would he be?
I think is he a Wookiee? I don't know.
No.
I don't even know
He could
Star
be a
Wars. I'm not
Wookiee.
going to pretend
What's
to
a
know.
Wookiee?
I know it knows. I honestly, I don't know. I've seen a couple of them when I was young. I don't know.
I think Sam's more like the lion from Wizard of Oz.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, got the mustache going.
Okay.
What do you think?
I see it. I mean, I've also seen you as the lion from Wizard of Oz dressed up for Hockey Central, so.
You know, Amber was the Tin Man.
Was he?
Yes.
How did you guys pull straws?
He has no heart.
DA. Taking strays, taking straight bullets.
Let's welcome the other Sammy to the show. Sammy, what's going on, pal? How are you? There's our Chewbacca.
I'm good, boys. How's it going?
Are you looking forward to the debut of Owen Powers? It's not often, Sam, we see such a delay for a first pick overall. Is it, looking back, will this be a blessing in disguise that he had all this extra time off, or was this a delay to showing off your new talent for the Buffalo organization?
It must be nice to be that age and really be able to call your own shot. So you get picked first overall. The only other guy I think it was Jack Johnson or way back when, who didn't report right away to play as a first overall pick, and then say, you know what, I want a chance to experience college life, maybe win a national title, and then I'm good to go. And the weirdest thing is all of these experiences and all of the pandemic probably helped Owen maybe more than anybody. I mean, I think about Quentin Byfield a little bit, but I say that because he had a chance to play in the Worlds. He had a chance to play in the Olympics. He had a chance to go to the World Juniors, be the first defenseman ever to score a hat trick in that event. So he's had all these really cool experiences, yet still had an opportunity to go play for a national championship, although it didn't work out. And here he is getting into games and burning a year of his contract with a few games left in the NHL. Like, what a deal. Like, good for him.
You didn't have a similar experience at 19 years old, Sam?
No.
Well,
no, I was washing jocks and folding towels for the Blue Jays at 19.
That's not so bad either. That's all right.
That's a pretty good gig.
Yeah, it is at 19.
Yeah, it was a good gig.
So Power gets in for the Sabres tonight. What can we fairly expect from him this early in his career, this young, this raw, going into a pretty intense time of year in the NHL?
For me, Bourne, I expect maybe not a seamless transition, but I expect him to play between 18 and 22 minutes and play in the top four and probably see some time in the power play, maybe a little bit on the kill. I just think that with those experiences that he's had, you're playing against older competition at Michigan. You have the Worlds, you have the Olympics, and yeah, there's smaller sample sizes, but the guy's not rattled by anything. And so, yeah, he's going to see Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, and he might get burned once or twice, but I don't think there's any reason not to go and just go full bore with him. He should be in perfect shape. He's just come out of the Frozen Four. So I don't see any reason why he doesn't make a transition right away into being an 18-minute guy right off the hop.
Sammy, if he is what we expect him to be, and I'm right there with you, that for Donnie Granato and the Buffalo organization, they get a horse in a top four, and I'm just wondering if he's able to do what we think he can do in a short period of time. Does this change the way Buffalo feels about speeding up the process a little bit here and maximizing the fact that you could potentially have a great defenseman at a level entry salary here? Do you try to take advantage of that?
Oh yeah, I think they're in a great window. I mean, Darlene's coming up, but that's gonna, there's gonna be some issues there, maybe with money, maybe not. But I look at Thompson. I look at Skinner having a resurgent year. I love Tuck. You get a hometown guy. Peyton Krebs, Dylan Cousins. The pieces. There's a lot of really good pieces there already. Now, if ownership can just keep its nose out of the business and allow Kevin Adams, who, by the way, I think has done an amazing job as a rookie, for being pushed into a corner by Jack Eichel, extracted every possible bit out of that trade with Vegas, and he called the shot, not Jack. And you don't see that very often for a rookie GM. So now, getting back to answer the question, with all of these pieces put together, you have Craig Anderson, who I think can mentor one of their goalies coming up. Maybe that's Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And then you can kind of go out and spend a little bit of money on the free agent market. And there's no reason why, this thing might be ahead of what we're seeing with Ottawa. And we've been talking about Ottawa for 3 straight years now. So they've done a good job. I just hope ownership allows them to kind of keep this thing moving forward, because I like where they're at. I like the way they play, the effort they give under Granato. It's been fun to watch, and the guys really seem to enjoy playing for him.
All right, Sammy, you're talking to Leafs Nation here, and everyone wants to know about this Matthew Nyes. What can you tell us about the likelihood of him coming, and if he did come, the potential for him to matter, to play at the NHL level at 19 years old?
Yeah, I think he's a unicorn. When it comes to looking at the Leafs prospects, you don't see a lot of size with that skill and that skating ability. So he is a unicorn, and I think it's important for Toronto to try and get him signed and get him signed quickly, because he'd be a nice additive for what they're trying to do in the playoffs here. And they're going to have to mix and match with what we've seen with the third and fourth line. But I did a little bit of research on him. I talked to some people around that U.S. Olympic team, and they think that this guy's no doubt a first-round talent. And he should be able to play with pace. He should be able to score goals. I'm not saying he's going to come in and be a playoff savior, but I think, trying to get him into a couple of regular season games would be huge for Toronto. Having said that, if you're sitting there and you're Matthew Nyes, you're thinking about, okay, maybe I'll do the Owen Power. I'll go back, national championship, a year closer to unrestricted free agency, because in order for this guy to be effective, in my opinion, he has to play in your top 9 or at least your middle 6. So if you're looking at all those people above you, there's 4 removable pieces. Are you going to challenge for one of those 2 spots after Tavares, Nylander, Marner, and Matthews? Or are you just going to be simply assigned to the third line and slug it out for bottom 6 minutes? Do you want to do that as a guy who has first-round talent, or do you want to wait it out and maybe see what the free agent waters will have for you? But you got to wait a couple of years before you have the ability to do that.
Everything, Sammy, I hear is that he made up his mind. He wants to go back. Is there a chance that the Leafs can talk him out of it? Is there a chance that he and his family could maybe change their minds? I would imagine that's why you keep maybe the communication open here, but I don't know, man. This is a freshman, right? This isn't a guy coming out of his senior year. Big difference. And whether or not, and you said it, like, is there a chance that this guy could come in and be a bit of a game changer for you? It's a stretch, man.
It is. It's a stretch, and especially in the playoffs, and especially when you're not going to be able to give him big minutes. So that's the thing, and he's probably sitting there considering all of those things. When he looks and sees the lineup, and you see Wayne Simmons sitting out, you see Jason Spezza sitting out, and you see Blackwell sitting out, and you're like, oh my God, these guys are established NHL players, and they're not getting an opportunity. What's a 19-year-old guy just out of college? What kind of opportunity is he going to be given? And is he going to be able to either A, practice enough, or B, get into enough games and get enough minutes in those games to prove that he belongs there ahead of some of those guys? That's a pretty challenging proposition. Now, the flip side of that is, hey, there's going to be some money on the table. You're going to be able to burn a year of your deal. You're going to get to restricted free agency quicker. You're going to put some money in your jeans, and now you can go out and have a summer and really focus singularly on trying to crack that lineup come the fall. But man, at least there's not a lot of spots out there. That's the issue. I think if you're looking at Buffalo, if you're looking at an Ottawa, you're looking at a Columbus, you're chomping at the bit saying, you know what, I can come in here, I can maybe establish myself here in the final 10 games, go to camp next year with a legit shot of coming out of there and being a guy ready to go and not having to worry about going to the American Hockey League. So with Matthew Nyes, I think the situation is different just because of how crowded the forward situation is with Toronto.
If he goes back to Minnesota, how different is his situation there? Like, are players leaving? Like, is he going to be getting more ice time than he saw this past year? Will he have the chance to be the guy? Or is it going to be similar to the situation he was in this past season? I'm assuming he had huge opportunity in top line minutes this year.
Yeah, and you'd have to think that is probably part of the reason for him leaning to go back at this point, because he knows he's going to be a focal point of what Minnesota has to offer next year, and a team that's going to be deep and going to contend and have those options. But I don't know, man. It's such a risky proposition. When you see the money that's laid out in front of you with an entry-level contract and the ability to burn it, that's a hard thing for me to pass up. And God forbid you think about some sort of long-term injury that may impact that player moving forward. But it's a huge, huge risk. At the end of the day, it could be the next Adam Fox situation, though. You wait a couple of more years, you wait it out, you get teams bidding for your services, you get to kind of pick where you want to go, you make your money, you're going to come into a good situation. So, the allure of that is also, I'm sure, very strong, especially when you have hopes of winning a national championship as early as next year.
Yeah, and people should keep in mind as well that, Sam, you just verify this, that once you've been drafted out of college, it's 4 years, right? They've got your rights for 4 years. And as a freshman, they don't have to worry about Knives rejecting contracts and then becoming an unrestricted free agent for at least a few more seasons, right? 3 to be exact.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So that's a long waiting period, in my opinion, right? To wait that amount of time, that's a long time to have to wait for both player and team. So I think if you're the Maple Leafs, you got to try and get it done here. You got to try and get this guy into the lineup as quickly as possible. But then, are you sacrificing? Hey, is Florida still in reach? Can you get to that top spot? It's probably a little bit of fool's gold to think that you're going to get there, but are you going to still have to play all your best players just to maintain that second spot and have home ice advantage? So there's a lot of different things to consider there. You got Boston there, you got Tampa. So it can be challenging to think, if you're this guy, that you're going to walk right in and all of a sudden think you're going to play 10 or 12 minutes when the reality is you may not even be able to play at all. I mean, Albert Staisley's played how much since he's arrived? And he's a guy who came in with high billing. The one thing, though, I'll say about Knies is that he is a unicorn. The Maple Leafs don't have that guy at that age in their prospect pool that has the size, the skill, the ability to play with pace like this guy has. And I think that's really important, moving forward for the organization.
Sam, moving away from Knies and going back to some junior stuff here, what's the deal with the World Juniors this summer? Are they re-picking guys? Is it going to be the same teams? What's happening when they get back at it this summer?
They are allowed to bring the same players that were rostered at Christmas. So a lot of those guys, by the time August rolls around, would have aged out, but they're being allowed to bring those players. Where they're going to have problems is how many of the NHL teams are going to want that for their player in August. So, For example, you got Owen Power. He's going to go and play, 8, 9, 10 NHL games. You're ready to rock. First-round pick. You've burnt a year of his deal already. Do you really want him to go to the World Juniors when he had 2 games of it already? He's had the Worlds. He's had an Olympics.
He won't want to go.
Really that important?
He won't want to go.
It's over. He won't want to go. The team won't want him to go. And I think there's going to be a lot of players in that situation, especially in August, because guys gear it down for a little bit, and August is typically when a lot of them start to get back on the ice again. And, are you going to risk injury? Do you want to risk an opportunity of missing camp? Do you want to use that time to get into your top physical shape to be able to go and compete against men? I just don't see this event having the same kind of appeal where 1 million people are around the fire at Christmas watching TV. I just don't see that same kind of appeal. And even if you win, is it going to feel the same as if you won it on January 5th? I don't think so. So, I don't think it's going to have a lot of appeal to the players. I don't think it's going to have definitely not going to have a lot of appeal to the teams.
Justin
at that time of year.
Justin and I can come and stand on your roof and shake fake snow.
Make it more authentic for you.
So when you look out the window, you see something.
Yeah, nice.
Hey, so listen, Sam, at the end of the day, this is just about fulfilling some business obligations, whether it's, TV or sponsorship, correct? That's all we're doing here in August.
What runs the world, Kyper? The mighty dollar.
One more.
Money.
Yeah, one more, Sammy, and you've done a great job over the years with Sportsnet, covering the draft and the junior age players. But this time of year, just going back to a little bit of that NCAA, in your estimation, is it still something that tends to get overhyped here. And I'm not talking about Owen Power or even Knives here, but the thought that you're going to find a diamond in the rough out of the NCAA to come in and help your team right away, because I don't like the percentages of these kids coming out of college and having an impact.
Yeah, it's few and far between. I mean, Bobby Brinks should get some opportunity in Philly. Kent Johnson should get opportunity in Columbus. Owen Power's obviously going to get opportunity in Buffalo. And so for those guys to come in and have an impact in the 10 games, it's probably not realistic to think of that. But they can set themselves up for what they're going to do going to camp, get used to what the lifestyle is like, adjusting to planes and shrimp on the plane and all that sort of stuff, and still being able to maintain what you have to do to stay in shape, and knowing when to pick your spots with a green light and that so on and so forth. So it's kind of fool's gold to think that those guys are going to come in and have an impact. But having said that, if you're Seattle, you think Matty Beniers is the second coming. With the year that you've had, the expectations that you had being kind of compared to Vegas. So for an organization like that, this guy's a hugely important piece. I don't think he's going to come in and all of a sudden light it up, but I do think he is a guy that they're going to need to have play well for them here as early as next year. And that can be challenging at that age.
Last one from me, Sammy. Looking forward to this summer's draft. I guess a couple interesting things. The one thing I want to know is about Russian players. Are they going to be selected, eligible to, or teams going to avoid them? It seems like a weird summer for knowing, I guess, which players teams are going to want.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's probably 4 or 5 of them that are first round, and those would be the most important guys that we think about. And, Ivan Miroshnichenko, as we know, is dealing with the lymphoma issue. Is that going to be something that's going to be resolved? But let's put him aside just for a moment and think about Danila Yurov, who's probably a top 10 guy. Minchikov, a defenseman out of Saginaw. I think that Minchikov is the type of guy that he's been in Saginaw for a long time. Unlikely that he's going to end up going home. So he might be a guy that teams say, okay, we know that he's here. He's going to be able to maintain his spot here in North America. He might be a little bit more attractive that way. But as Danila Yurov was playing over there, are you going to be able to get him over here? Is the visa going to stay? Does the kid want to come? Will the kid feel pressure from having to leave Putin's nest to come on over here and play? So it's not so much about, what the NHL teams are thinking. I also think there's going to be a ton of pressure from the Russian government to those players. Hey, I don't think you're leaving anywhere right now. That's also going to play a part in all this. So the way I would look at it is there's probably going to be a couple of guys who I think are first rounders that when you have a team like Arizona, maybe potentially a Montreal that has multiple first round picks, that they might take a shot at a guy who is a projected top 10, that if you can get him past 25, maybe you take a shot, especially if you have multiples. But it is an interesting storyline to watch. In my opinion, we've already had a number of teams that have stayed away from Russian players for fear of getting them over here, or getting them over here and then having them leave. This just exacerbates the problem tenfold, I believe. So I think we will see, much fewer of them drafted. But I also do think that there's going to be some teams late in that first round with their additional picks that might find some value there as well.
Hey, Sam, great stuff, man. Thanks for doing this. And let me drop off a couple of shovels for you, and maybe a snowblower. And
Christmas it up.
We'll get you ready for the World Juniors in August, buddy.
Yeah, nice. Bring it up to the Pulpit Club. That's where I'll be.
I love hearing that. Sam Cosentino, thanks for joining us, man.
Take care, guys.
Okay. See, he mentioned the prospect in Seattle, Matty. And
years,
yeah, and then there's Kent Johnson in
Philly.
In Columbus.
Columbus, okay,
right?
Yeah, you're right.
But like, look at where those organizations are, and then you've even got the kid there in Philly tonight, Brinks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, they need those kids now.
Yeah.
Because
And they need them to be contributors,
Look
players.
at this new shiny thing in this hand. Forget about this 72 game season hand. Don't focus on that.
Yeah.
Focus on this shiny
Look
new
what's
toy,
coming.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So they need that story. They need to overhype these kids. They don't care. Like, it really doesn't matter today how good or great they'll be. They just need them to
Just
alleviate
wear the jersey and go out there.
and just, get people off my back.
Yeah.
So they need those guys for the story right now. Matthew Nyes, the Leafs don't need it. It could be an added bonus. It could be seen as a strictly depth move where he could come in and be my 12th, 13th, 14th forward. And maybe he signs and he does nothing but skate as a black ace.
Yeah.
That's it. And soak it all in. But I don't think this kid's going down that path.
No, and I understand why he would be hesitant to do that. I just can't help but think the best thing. So, you look at the different potential career arcs for this guy. The best thing for this kid is probably to go be the guy in college hockey at 20 years old and run a power play, a PP1, and, be out there in the last minute. I'm sure he played a ton this year, but I don't think it's a bad thing for this guy to get used to honing the skill side of the game. If he goes into the NHL and plays pro hockey, they're going to ask him, he's big and physical, play in the fourth line for us, go run into some guys, get it in deep. They're going to want him to muck it up, right? Because they have guys who can score. They don't want him to score. They want another guy who can go out there and do the little things, that physical edge. I think it'd be really good for him to play another year of college hockey and work on the skill side.
Okay, first of all, they haven't had a lot of conversations with a lot of players to muck it up. They are skill it up.
Well, they are, but they're going to tell him we don't need someone else to
Outside
score.
of
We don't
Simmons.
care if you score. They're going to tell
Outside
him.
of Simmons, who's getting that? We need you to muck it up.
Well,
Engvall, you think Engvall's had it?
no, but I think maybe. But I think there's guys who they say we don't care if you ever score. Kemp, we do not care.
Yeah.
We and McKay may have been in that boat earlier. I think that he would get we don't care what you do offensively. We just want you to be physical, be energetic, be a guy who goes and gets it.
Again, you're right. And we are talking about a guy that just finished his freshman year.
As a second round pick. Was he 57th overall or something? Maybe he goes to college hockey.
Well, and the ongoing thing, even from my era, is junior or NCAA. And the quickest route to the NHL has been, will be, and continue to be junior A hockey. I like
to college.
Junior A hockey to the pros, to the NHL. It's not NCAA.
Okay, so in BC we call junior A hockey.
Okay.
Like I played, what do you call it? Tier 2 here or whatever.
Major junior A.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
Tier 1.
Gotcha.
Right? So that is still the closest you will get to prepare you for NHL hockey.
No doubt.
Not necessarily the NCAA. For
I played 37 games a year
for
in
a
college.
kid at 19 to 20 to come out of to come out of NCAA, where traditionally it's been 22 or 23, is a huge difference.
Yeah. Massive. And
massive.
This guy's played, I mentioned how many games he played in college hockey. He played probably junior A, and I don't know what league, I don't know where Nyes played his junior hockey. USHL? USHL. How many games would he have played in Minnesota this year? I bet you it's 45.
Yeah, that's it.
Something like that.
So 45 games, NCAA to Stanley Cup playoffs. Are you kidding me?
It's a lot to ask, which
It's
is why,
huge.
yeah.
And physically, even if he is built already to maybe sustain some sort of day-to-day look mentally, like
played 33 games this year.
Why would you do that to that kid? Why would you push hard for that? Especially if he's not going 99% of the way to say, yes, I want this.
Right.
Yes, I can do it.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm ready for that.
NHL, baby, let's go.
So-
Stanley Cup, in my lifelong dream. Put me in. I don't care what you need me to do. Let's go.
He's not doing that.
No.
Or else he would have signed by now.
Right. So I'm with...
And that's the problem.
It is. It is
sure.
it
That's
is a
the
problem,
problem.
but
So
maybe it's not a problem that he sees what's best for his development too. He was a point per game this
Yeah.
year, 33
Something
points in
tells
33
me,
games.
As much as maybe Kyle might be disappointed he's not signing earlier, Kyle would get that.
Yes.
Kyle would be today's general manager to say, if you don't feel this way, then I know it's the right move.
And let him play at a level long enough to be good at a level. Like he played in the USHL back-to-back years and was never above a point per game. Sorry, 45 points in 44 games, 42 points in 44 games. In college this year, 33 points in 33 games. Let him play at a level where he's too good for the level, or at least one of the best players at the level. I just, I want the Leafs to have another option who's good for this season because I have a Leafs show. But I can't deny that I see that what's best for the kid is probably not being here.
It'd be fun to have a shiny new toy to talk about. The
That's
last 10
kind of it.
games.
Like I want him because I want him to be here on the
Could you
team.
just not be selfish for like 5 seconds? Can you think of somebody else besides your Dustin Johnson self?
I really don't care if he comes or he doesn't come. I don't think the Leafs need him at all.
No,
They're stacked without him. They
Okay.
got the best lineup, but
also, the Leafs have been way too tempted to play their shiny new toys. Robertson getting in, Sandin running PP1. Be worried about what they would offer him before he's ready.
All right, news and notes before everybody gets ready for Buffalo and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Malkin suspended 4 games, throw out preferential treatment for NHL stars out the window.
You know why I agree with it being 4 games? Because nobody said, it's not a suspension. There's not one person who saw that play and said, I don't see it. Like, you can't do that.
And history
Been suspended
probably
before.
added
Quite
another
injured a guy.
game or two for sure.
I don't
Malkin's nasty, guys.
I don't really care, but I do think it was 1 game heavy.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I mean, it's not. I mean, 4 games. I think how many games they have left? 8 or 9. Half the remaining
It's a
games.
ton.
It's a
It is.
lot.
It's a whack
It is. And listen,
for
it
the
was
101st best player in NHL history.
I can't.
Was he
believe-
not
no.
on top 100?
No, he didn't get in 100.
Old Newsy alone snapping him in 1940. got it.
I think if he was in the top 100, he would have gotten 2 games.
Yeah.
But I think it was a 1 game worse than Matthews.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right.
Yes.
But
The only
I'm
people
fine
who
with
care
it.
about that is him, who's
if-
cost him
if-
$150,000 extra.
or 2 if he's first-time offender.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I love Malkin for this
Good.
reason.
I just like it because
Because
it shuts people up about, the stars can't be touched.
yeah.
And if you're the team, I guess like they're probably going to play the Rangers. Like, all right, just to be clear, our stars will cross-check you in the nose,
Yeah.
so take it easy.
And Malkin's always been like that.
He
Like,
has. He's got a nasty
He's
streak.
just not a pleasant guy to play against. He's just kind of not a barrel of laughs. Let's just say that.
I remember
One step back for 2 in the playoffs forward.
Couple extra feet.
do you ever play with anyone who just gets
Snaps.
so offended by? I'm thinking of Bill Guerin in training camp. There's an old video of some guy. Is it Dryden? I forget who it was. Brent
Oh my
Draney.
God.
Ran him in an exhibition game, and Guerin just
Buried him.
2-hand over his head. Like, you do that today in an NHL game, they put you in jail.
Yeah.
And it was just you don't hit me. I'm Bill Guerin. Do you play with anyone who ever got that indignant about
half
getting
the
hit?
league. Half the league. In my era.
No, for real though. That was
Everybody, I think.
Yeah.
You'd
there was a
you'd
big
have-
thing that guys
you'd
took
have-
it personally.
In all honesty, you could look down a lineup and say, in my era, 6 to 7 guys.
Can't hit him.
Well, if you do, you don't know what the hell's you're going to get.
Yeah.
And it worked for the most part. It did. It
you had to create your space,
or
right?
you're like, if I do this, I better know what I'm getting myself into. And to extend that, who else I'm going to drag into this,
right.
which sometimes can work in your favor. And sometimes, you can go back to the bench and go, yeah, I didn't really need that tonight. Right. I didn't,
Guys on your team going, I could have done without a punch in the schnoz
could
tonight.
have done, without the Donnybrook, and my shoulder's a little sore, my back's sore, and didn't really see it necessary. But I mean, it just doesn't happen there. And I think there are more guys that would overreact to a scenario like Trevor Zegras did than ever before. And
much more nuclear option where you would be like, everyone's their own little dictator with a nuke. And it was like, I don't know. I don't upset that guy because I don't know if he's going to push the red button or not.
And we can all know where the trend's going with the game. But, Trevor Zegras just misread that whole situation when it came to, how bad he thought that scenario was. And it wasn't even close. Not even close. But I think there's more guys that starting to think like, that's ridiculous. And it's like, oh my God, I can't believe that would still happen today. And it's like, nah, it still can happen, just not as often.
Yeah, it is funny. It is funny because he is a guy who probably grew up watching a brand of hockey that didn't include that much at all.
Then he didn't watch the NHL growing up.
Well, he's like 4 years old. How old is he? 21? I don't know. He just hasn't seen it much in his career. But you're right. That definitely has been a part historically of hockey, that if you stab a goalie's glove, you might get punch-sized in the face. But, yeah. So, but here's the thought I had today, which I didn't bring up before the show, for the Calder vote. Is there any part of you who thinks that Zegras deserves more love in the vote than just his raw stats because of what he's done in terms of the Michigan goals, the Dishigan pass?
Yeah. There's been for sure a lot of attention there for sure.
And the attention he's brought to the league and the different type of hockey.
In the sense that we are talking about an elite skill set, though.
Yeah.
Like what the Michigan has done is just remind everybody that this guy is probably as talented and skill as any young rookie has come in 15, 20 years. Forget the numbers.
Right.
Forget the success of the team. Forget all of that. Just from sheer talent, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it's not enough.
No?
For a Rookie of the Year trophy.
Mo Sider's probably my guy if I were to vote for that award.
That's an easy one.
Sider?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the bunting conversation has silenced.
The bunting.
Yeah. Well,
unfortunately, he's with two of the best
numbers,
humans on earth.
The numbers.
He hasn't scored in a month.
Yeah. He hasn't scored in a month with two guys that have been scoring like crazy.
That score every game.
I get he's got a dozen assists and, he's still around the play.
Guess what, Kyper? I might have a couple assists on that line.
Wait, he's first in rookie scoring and everyone's like, yeah, you're not in the conversation anymore.
Two things always went against him. His age and the fact that he's riding shotgun with the two best players in the world.
He's 20. I'm talking about this way differently.
Yes.
But was he 26?
Yeah.
So, he's way older than the two guys on his line.
Sider in Detroit, to me, it's not even close.
Solid.
Right?
You got 45
not
points.
Even close.
They're going to not suck much longer.
He's only -7 playing on Detroit.
With who they've got in charge there, the guys they already
dip into free agency.
They dip into free agency. Plus
common.
You think so? Yeah. Start buying some players.
Stevie Y can draft too. Like that's
the Sider one was actually an early pick, right?
Yeah.
People were like, "Oh, that's way off on."
And you just think of all the people they have, like Draper, who know, like all those guys that know hockey. Lindstrom involved now, like Yzerman. Just it's a scary proposition for me for them to be running. He already made the Lightning sick.
Yeah, I'm probably Sider, Zegras, and Tanner Jeannot. I think for my
that guy
guys.
hits like a truck too.
He hits like a truck. He's got 25.
He
to 24
smoked someone the other night. I don't know who it was that he got, but he nailed somebody.
I think
it was
the
Letang.
rink.
Was it Letang that he got? Did you see that hit?
Yeah, I saw the hit.
Oh,
I just can't recall who.
It was Letang.
Who he hit.
The PIMS leaders for rookies, Bunting is second with 66. Jeannot's got 117. So he's providing something else to go with his.
Is he older
points.
too?
Yeah, 24. Quite old.
24. Do you think they should cap it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a very easy thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Just put 22 or 23.
I like 23.
Yeah, 23
I like
is fine for
23
me.
too.
Yeah. Yeah, 24. Sorry he didn't get in the league sooner, but
yeah, I haven't got a problem if someone needs a year or two in the American Hockey League to win this trophy.
Right. Totally agree. But yeah, after that it's
all right. We touched a little bit on Vegas in Vancouver, but you still believe there's some life in Vancouver?
If Vancouver beats Vegas tonight, they'll have 82 points. The Los Angeles Kings will have 86. Both will have 8 games remaining. So 4 points back with 8 games to go. There's a chance. You would also have to leapfrog Vegas, who I assume is going to win some hockey games.
Yeah. Now, was it you that told me you went on Vancouver radio and they're asking you about Rick Tocchet, his name in Vancouver? Are we talking about a new coach now already in Vancouver?
I mean, I think Boudreau always kind of felt like the guy until they found their guy, but they are 27-13-8, I think, under him, Sammy.
Correct.
It's a 116-point pace.
Sammy,
they don't want him.
We're running out of time here. Were you supposed to give tickets away or a code or something today?
No, I had to record.
Oh, you had to record. So we're good there.
All good, Kip.
See, I'm
Producer
looking
Kip
after
just double checking.
I never forget anything. So
I know you don't. I know you don't.
Hey, best bets tonight. Leafs. Austin Matthews. I don't know what it pays.
What's the bet for him getting 60 tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Hat trick.
Yeah, I'm on Vegas tonight, boys. My bet's on Vegas. Vegas over Vancouver minus
so is JD
130.
Bunkus.
That's where my money's at. Yeah,
I'm going to the game tonight. I'm going to watch Owen Power live.
Oh, yeah, you're going to be eating a steak. You're not watching the game.
You're in the sushi bar.
All right, we got a few seconds here. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody. We're right back tomorrow. Have a great night.